I still want to go into deeper about women.
Yes.
And who they should be.
Yes.
And who they think they are not.
Yes.
Reason being that, and again I mentioned it at the beginning, a lot of people do not live up to their full potential.
Right.
You know, and that's why people keep saying that the grave sites are very rich.
Exactly.
People have gone in with the talents they had, with the brains they had.
Right, right.
What is it that we can help women, and maybe you've touched on it, how can we help women to get out of it really? To get out of the fear, to get out of knowing or thinking that they are not what they ought to be?
First of all, like we've heard, like T.D. Jakes always says, fear is false evidence appearing real.
You know?
False evidence appearing real.
Yes.
So the fear has to do with self-esteem again, because there's fear of failure, fear of being rejected by people because you don't measure up, fear that I will not be good enough, fear that I will disappoint my parents. So that fear again has to do with how society has conditioned us in our early years.
Exactly.
What are the things that we were hearing? And those are the things that cause us to be fearful. And notice it's always we fear that if we do something, we will not meet the bar. We will not meet the standard. But the standard...
And who has set the standard? You know, yes.
So one of the things that fear has to do with is raising these ridiculously high standards in our lives that have nothing to do with us, but because we see somebody else like this. So we try to measure up ourselves like this.
I know, right?
But we put the standards, they're so high, and they have nothing to do with us. We're not even meant to be that in that area or what we are. It's like, you know, a guy with a motorbike, you know, competing with a bicycle. You know, a bicycle has its own purpose, or you know, a tuk-tuk, for instance, has its own purpose. A car has its own purpose. A Vitz has its own purpose. A V8 has its own purpose. These are all different vehicles for different purposes.
You know what I think of?
Yeah.
I think of running a race.
Right.
You find somebody jogging.
Yeah.
They've decided, I'll be jogging 4 kilometers every day. You are still at, I'll be walking 1 kilometer,
yes,
you know.
Yes.
And then this guy passes you, and all of a sudden you think, oh my goodness, I'm not doing enough. Then you begin to follow them, you know. So I'm just thinking,
and you can't keep
whose
up.
race are you? Yes. Whose race are you running?
Exactly.
And what are you going to achieve when you finish that race?
Yeah.
So I think kind of that we should learn to run our own races.
Our own race.
Yes.
And if women learned to run their own race, then instead of running other people's races, then and understanding that this in my race, I can only run or walk, you know, 1 kilometer a day. It doesn't matter whoever it is that runs 5 kilometers a day. I, in my capacity and the way God created me, I can only walk 1 kilometer a day. And that's how much God requires of me because of who I am.
Exactly.
You know, and understand and be content with what you can do. But the thing is, Julia, we've got to do something. We can't just live in that bubble of fear and say, oh, this is who I am, or I can't do anything. We've got to move beyond that.
It's Joyce Meyer who says, do it afraid.
Yes,
I want to turn the conversation kidogo, you know. I'm thinking of how it affects us in our marriages, you know. When I first got married, my fear was, oops, supposing a divorce, oops, you know, so that even when I say my husband said something, I was not able to be up to it and say, but you know what, I think this way. You know, so sometimes, even in marriages, I feel like sometimes women take on certain things they should not take on because they are not able to speak their minds. And it is a Kenyan thing. It's a Kenyan thing that you can't have a difference of opinion, you know. I feel like sometimes we are scared to speak our minds. And so sometimes people never really get to know who we are.
True, And then 14 years later, the marriage is collapsing, and people don't know what went through.
Or somebody saying, but Julia, you've changed. I remember later in my marriage, my husband
Yeah.
saying, but you're different.
Yes.
I was thinking because I was always scared, and now I'm getting
Right.
out of my
And when you're talking
my
yourself-
cocoon.
Yes,
Yes,
you're
yes.
expressing yourself.
Yeah, so I think that as women, we should not be scared to give our views of what we think.
Yeah,
You know, as much as sometimes the world does not allow us to be,
Yes.
to speak much, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
but then we should learn to be able to say what we want to say in a manner that is acceptable. I know that sometimes people don't like it when you say something so strongly. I have this.
Yes.
I'm prone to speaking with the power.
Right.
And that can put off people. Yes.
Right.
And so I have learned, I'm learning,
Yes.
I'm still learning,
Right.
to see
Yeah.
how do I put this idea
Yes.
for it to be taken, you know.
Mm.
So I'm thinking also now as women, we need to learn how do I put things across for them to be accepted by other people so that I make a difference.
Right.
Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we want to make that impact. We want to change the world. We want to support other people, to
Right.
help other people.
Yes.
So I'm bringing in that aspect of knowing how to present
Yes. And particularly in marriage.
in marriage.
In marriage.
Yes.
That's a very pertinent issue because today we see, first of all, women may fear to communicate
Yes.
because of what the husband will say,
Yes.
or they've never learned to communicate.
Yeah.
But again, it all goes down to your self-awareness, your emotional awareness.
Yes.
Knowing how do you communicate to people, and how do you package it? How do you come across to people?
Yeah.
If you're aware of yourself, like I know for myself that when my pitch goes high,
Yes.
and even with my children, I mean, you can be saying something to them, but then you say it several, the
Times and they're not getting it.
yeah,
So eventually you're like,
you're shouting, But knowing, just being aware of how you come across to people,
yeah.
and we can get this by consulting a few friends.
Yeah.
When I talk, how do I come across? And then,
And we rarely do that, right?
yeah.
And we are scared to be told something that is just a bit negative.
Negative.
Yeah.
It will cause us to need to adjust. So we need to know how we come across,
Yeah.
and then we need to know how we can package ourselves in our emotional state,
Yeah.
when we are in our emotional state, which is self-awareness and self-management. How can I manage myself by communicating adequately what I want,
Yes.
my needs,
Yes.
but in a way that is non-threatening and non-aggressive, so that it doesn't come out that I'm fighting for my rights, but I'm making a statement. We also need to be aware of our husband. What does he like? How does he receive information?
What is his background?
What is his background?
Yeah.
You see, I may be a certain way because of the way I grew up. My family's influence on me.
Yeah.
Maybe my family, we were expressive. We were allowed to express ourselves.
Exactly.
We said what we thought.
Exactly.
But in their family, they never talked.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
So when I express myself, I may come across as very sharp, too confident,
Exactly.
and that could cause a conflict. So knowing how to express yourself in a marriage, but also learning your husband, what is his way of expressing himself? How does he package or receive information? And it takes a while to just learn who he is. Yeah, the things that make him, that put him down, that cause him to be upset. There are certain things that I will say to my brother, for instance, that I can never say to my husband.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's
So
so true.
knowing how to say it, when to say it, and how to package it.
And I'm thinking also of the gender difference.
Right, yes.
That sometimes when there's an issue,
Yeah.
I want it resolved.
Now,
But my husband will
he
pull
wants to
back.
think
He
about
does
it.
not want to talk about it at that
yes,
point.
he wants to
And
absorb.
that would be thinking also about what is the personality of the person.
Right.
So here is
Yeah.
this person who is an introvert,
Yes.
but apart from being an introvert,
Yeah.
he's a man.
He's a man.
And so for them, when there are issues,
Yeah.
they want to run away
Yeah.
from, or they want to keep quiet.
Yeah.
I don't know how they expect it.
Yes.
But for me,
Yeah.
I want it resolved, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about that and thinking of what you've said.
Yes.
If I've learned this person,
Yes.
and we're supposed to be servants,
Yes.
then I'm striving to make things well.
Yes. Yes.
And allowing him to be him.
Yes.
So that later I could find out, but you know, this offended me because of the way you say it, or because you did not say anything, you know. So I like what you put in that we need to be able to also learn our husbands and see how, yes.
And you know, Julia, as women, we talk how many words for every word that a man says. I was reading somewhere, and a woman at the end of the day will talk, is it 25,000 words or something?
Yes.
And and if our husband is the type who wants to withdraw, to think about an issue, you know, my husband will tell me, let me just think about this for a while. Like, you know, you're there, I want an answer,
Yes.
you know, I want this now. You know?
I almost think it's a gender thing. Because I'm wondering, excuse me,
yes.
can we just resolve this
right now?
You know, when are we traveling to this?
When make the decision.
You know, you make me think of one time we were driving from home. And so when we got to Nakuru, our car had a problem. It got spoiled. And so my husband was trying to look for a mechanic so they will repair, and then we leave Nakuru, and then we get home because we have to be in the office the next day. And I was like, my dear, can't we just enjoy our lives? This person can be repairing. We go to the hotel, we sleep there, and he said, no, I have to be somewhere in the morning. And I'm like, but you can postpone it, honestly. Let's go easy on ourselves. And so we are so different.
Totally.
We are different gender-wise, but we're also different in our personality. We're also different with the way. I like what you brought up about the bring-up.
Right.
In some homes, things are really said, you know. Sometimes you walk into a home and you're wondering, in my home we were really loud, you know? And everyone talked what they thought. But when I got married, I realized that sometimes certain things, when I say them, they seem to offend him. And I'm thinking, excuse me, or even not him. My relatives from where I'm married, I'm thinking, oh, I was just saying this, I was not being offensive, you know. And they don't mean to be offended. They're just thinking, how could she say this? You know? How could she do this? You know? I think of sometimes her say, by the way, can I make you a cup of tea? And my husband is like, how do you ask somebody? Make the tea, bring it. So I think the issue of how we are brought up is it makes a difference in our lives, or contributes a lot to how we live.
And you know, understanding womanhood, Julia, is understanding things like the home that you're married into. And what
and loving that way also.
Yes. And seeing what do I need to adjust about myself to fit into that home. And womanhood, I think for me, bringing it back to the home again, is not an issue of competing, but complementing. You know, so working together. Each one, again, back to the roles. Knowing or playing their role in the right way that God intended it, to do, and complementing, meaning you do your part, I do my part, and we bring it all together. So it's not a matter of I'm competing with him, or you know, because then they would.
It's so nice to be the woman and him just being the man. You know what I mean?
And also, womanhood is, I find these days, we are so defined by the media, like we've talked about that.
True.
So we're so defined by the media that we begin to play, to
the media.
To morph ourselves into who we are not, and we bring it into the home.
Yes.
We bring what we are seeing on the soap operas, what we are seeing in the media personalities. We bring that image into our home, and we try to portray that. And
so we are masking ourselves.
We are. And it worries me, Julia, when and this is a statement I hear a lot from young people that we counsel. The lady would say, "Oh, he's trying to control me." And all he did was tell you, please change that t-shirt, it's revealing a bit too much.
Yeah.
And you say, no, he's trying to control me.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to visit his parents or visit some,
and
respected
he
people.
for you to dress like this.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And if he asks you to change, then you say, oh no, he's controlling me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to understand, that a man can tell you something. If he loves you, indeed he will tell you the truth.
He will.
And many times we don't want to hear the truth.
And when he stops saying,
yes,
that's what should worry you.
Yeah.
It should not worry you that when he stops saying, then you should be worried.
Right.
Because he doesn't care.
Yes, yeah. So Julia, that also brings me to an issue of values in womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, many people don't know about their values. And the Bible tells us that where your treasure is, your heart will also be there.
Yes.
So what you value in your life
Mm-hmm.
will also helps you to determine and focus and on who you are as a woman. And the different areas in our lives, we've seen like in somebody in my spiritual life, what do I value? And a value is usually a noun. And I would say, for me, for instance, in my spiritual life, I value obedience to God, commitment, I value intimacy. In my relationship with my husband, what do I value? I can say,
kindness.
yes, kindness, honesty, respect, And in work, what do I value? In my work, I value excellence, I value diligence, I value transparency. And so there are different aspects of our lives. We need to know our values. And that is important because if you're in a marriage and you don't know your value, in the heat of a moment, he will say something and you will feel he's aggressed you, or there's something that he has offended you with. But you need to go back and say, why did I feel offended? It's because he crossed or violated your value of respect. So
that you are addressing that which caused you, because sometimes we address symptoms.
Symptoms, exactly. Yeah. So I always tell people that my husband and I have learned to fight clean. So when there's a conflict, he will say, it's usually him coming to apologize, For the rest of us, we are nailed by mouth for I don't know how many days, But when he comes and he says, what did I do wrong? And I've had time to reflect, and I've said, the way he said that thing made me feel disrespected. So when he comes, we have the conversation. When you said that thing to me, you spoke in a very gruff tone. And that made me feel disrespected.
Or devalued.
Oh, devalued.
Or devalued.
Exactly.
And I like that because sometimes as ladies, we accept it. So somebody can say that, you feel bad about it, but you keep quiet. So slowly, you are moving the bar down for yourself.
Right.
And so you begin to feel, to have the low self-esteem.
Exactly.
So I like that you're talking about it, that it needs to be resolved.
It needs to be resolved, and you need to communicate, but you need to know which values or what is it that has caused this conflict.
I really like what you're saying.
What is it when somebody, say in the workplace, doesn't do their work properly? All you know is that you come in and it irritates you when they put these things on your table that are not, but then you go back and you see your value at work is excellence. Okay, excellence. But for them, they don't value excellence, so you need to explain to them that, listen, when you do work for me, you do this, and you do it this way, because I value that things are done thoroughly and in an excellent way. Instead of just getting so irritated.
And you've not told them.
And you don't know.
They have no clue that they're making a mistake.
So understanding your values, what you value in every sphere of your life, in your family, even in church, and some people value honesty with their church members. Others value transparency, others value participation or commitment. And when people are not pulling their weight, then you get offended as a church member. Exactly. You don't know why everybody is offending you. You just know that you're irritated. And you don't know what exactly
these people, what's wrong with them. But that this value system brings in submission.
Exactly.
People keep talking about submission. And occasionally, I feel like it's been misunderstood. Because I feel like sometimes people think that being submissive to my husband is doing everything he says we do.
Yes. Yeah.
It may not necessarily be.
Yeah.
I could actually come back to him and say that the way you said we do this, I don't think this would be good for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because my role is to make my husband look good.
Yeah.
Not to make him look foolish.
Yeah.
So I can't allow him to do certain things and people are watching and saying,
yes. Yeah.
And does the wife know,
Yes.
So I should be in a position to be able to correct him.
Right.
And lovingly, of course. And respectfully, of course. Yeah. So I think that's what it reminded me of.
And then again, when you're saying it in a loving or respectful manner.
And the motive.
Yes.
Why you're saying it normally will actually help you even with the tone of the voice.
And Julia, you know how us women we can manipulate sometimes.
That's
true. Yeah, we can manipulate with our words. We want something. Hey sweetie, so you do this for me, and yet we when something we feel aggrieved or in a certain way, we quickly turn around.
And you're wondering, is that the same
mouth? Yeah, and the man is wondering, what happened here? What changed? Yeah. So basically, again, knowing, like I've said, knowing your values, but also knowing when your values have been violated.
I really like that idea.
And having the courage to speak to people, not only in a marriage, wherever you are in your family,
in the office,
just telling people,
in your fellowship,
some people
because you know what, that is so nice because people will always know Julia does not like this and this and the other, but sometimes we are silent about it because we want to remain on the fence, and I don't think remaining on the fence is a good thing.
It's not because you're hurting. People are offending you, eventually you leave the fellowship.
That's true.
And people are asking, what offended? Why did Julia leave?
That's true.
And you don't want to tell them the truth, so you just go on and pretending.
I want to shift to the woman as a mother.
All right. Yeah.
We've talked about as a wife.
Right.
And you talked about manipulation, and that's why I remembered that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we hide behind the word submission to get our way. So that as long as the husband is doing what I like, we say, but my husband has said.
Yes.
And it brings in a bit of selfishness.
Yeah.
Now, as parents, sometimes I think that we occasionally will fail to protect our children the way we ought to. Because men think differently from women.
Yes, exactly.
And naturally, women nurture.
Right.
Right. And sometimes a man will come out so strongly in a manner that will demean the child. Right. It could demean the daughter, it could demean, especially the boy. You see, for a boy, when you talk to him in a certain way, you've demeaned him, he'll keep thinking about it. But sometimes when men are wanting to say something to the kids, they may not think much about how the words come out, And sometimes I think that our role is like an HR who stands for the organization.
Right. And the management.
And the management.
And the people.
Yeah. Exactly. And so we should be in the middle, standing for the child and the husband. So that I'm able to tell the kids, no, you know what? This is what dad values. And when you say this, I don't think you said it in the right way. But I should still be able to tell my husband, I think that you should have maybe accepted when the child said this, or you should have said in a different way,
Yes.
Have you come across that?
Yes, Julia, that is, as a mother, first of all, you always want to protect your children.
Yes.
The mothering instinct in us, the nurturing instinct in us will always want to go on the children's side.
On the children's side.
Yeah, but we need to learn to be neutral. Because first of all, you are his wife, you are his wife and you're their mother. So when there is this duality or disparity, I think that we should remember my husband is the one that keeps saying praise in public and what in private, rebuke in private.
Yes.
Praise in public and rebuke in private. So when this thing is happening, the children are there and dad has said all this and this, blah, blah, blah. call your husband aside and say, sweetie, let me see you in the bedroom kidogo, and then tell him, no, what you're doing is not right. This, you need to be this way. So being a neutral person, and it's very difficult for us, and it's very difficult if you're in a marriage that is dysfunctional, or if it's the husband that has something that's going on. It's very difficult to play that neutral role effectively. But we also need to remember that he's their father as well.
Of course.
So
he wants their best.
He wants their best.
So they should also accept certain things the way he says them, isn't it?
Even though it's accepting the things that we say, but I noticed, Julia, that many times women will come in and protect the husband, and that's who we are. We want to guard his reputation. We'll cover up for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's who we are. But I think it's necessary to go back to him later on and say, look,
I may have covered you.
Yeah. But
however,
you need to sort this thing out.
Yeah. I'm still thinking about the selfish bit of the woman.
Yes.
Sometimes I think we are really selfish. As long as we are getting our way, things can go wrong. For example, I may be in a home, and maybe my husband says something to his sister.
Yes. Yeah.
And that thing was not okay.
Yes.
Maybe he didn't speak to her well.
Yeah.
But for me, as long as I'm comfortable with him,
Right. Yeah.
And so sometimes I think that women are not playing the role of mediation as well as we ought to. Because I believe that I should be in the center of the relationships, even in their home, so that if something, they may never get to know about it, but if my husband treats his sister or his brother in a certain way, or demeans her or him, I should be able to move on the side and say, by the way, when we were at so-and-so's house, when you said this, because they are not maybe at your level, or they are not like this, you shouldn't have said it like that. So I feel like occasionally, what God has given us to do, we do not do, because I may sit there and just enjoy. After all, it's his brother.
Or sister.
Yes, or even, he told his sister, and that's really bad.
And we sometimes we forget that
it's his sister.
It's his sister, and she's a woman like you.
Yes,
and she has feelings like you.
Yeah.
So one of the roles, again, in womanhood and in the home, is counsel. To provide wise counsel. We're looking at the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yes.
The fact that man sits in the gate, and is recognized by the whole of society. You don't know what she tells him in the bedroom.
Exactly.
Exactly. Babanami, here you need to style up.
Exactly.
You don't know how she counsels him and how she provides, and that's the role really we've been called to, because we're not only nurturers but we're helpmates. And you want to help, if you want to help somebody,
you need to
support them, not only when they're doing good, but also when they're doing bad, or something has happened. You point out, in a polite way, in a good way, and make it look. A friend of mine said that for us women is when you push your husband up there in the front, but you're doing all the work at the back. So when as they say, behind every successful man, there is a woman working very hard.